Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things theatre and performing arts in South Africa. Excuse the braids are growing out, so I haven't had time to get my hair redone. And we're going to be talking about top jobs for actors or for performing arts graduates. Today, before we start, I just want to talk about a little bit about myself. I am a performing arts graduate. I studied a 3-year qualification in the performing arts with my specialty in musical theatre and dance. And I worked for 2 years. I did mostly backstage work and I did a couple of auditions before deciding to leave the industry. But because this is a labor of love, this is something that I love to do and love to talk about, I'm creating this channel to be a bridge for people who are aspiring performers and the actual industry. So today we're going to be talking about top jobs for South African actors, side hustles for performing arts graduates. So this is mostly based off of my own experience and things that I've seen other people do and what I've done. I did try to do a little bit of research, but I think it's really important to talk about the outside work, our day jobs in this industry. And you might wonder, if you're not in the performing arts, if you're studying and you haven't actually gone into the industry, why do I need a day job? Why do I need a survival job? I thought this was going to be my job. Well, the reason why is because we as performing artists are not considered employees in the traditional sense in South Africa. We're actually what is considered independent contractors. So I have my notes here, so don't mind me looking back down. We're considered independent contractors, so we're technically self-employed individuals. And then we get contracted by production companies, by the shows to actually provide our skills, to provide our performance skills. We're not strictly employed by them as employees. So that means we're not really given the same benefits and the same stability that a traditional employee would be given. That's really important because usually the contracts that most of us work on, whether it's doing backstage work, whether we're doing acting work, dancing, singing work, it's temporary contracts, and there'll be periods of time where you will have no work, where work will dry up, per se, to use in other words. And during that time where work dries up, you still have the same expenses, you still have life expenses, and you also have expenses of running your business or your entity, which is you as a performing artist, such as you have to pay for your own headshots, you have to pay for your own makeup, you have to pay to travel to audition so you can get the next gig, you know. So you need to find something to supplement you financially during those periods of time where you are not working. And so in terms of the expenses, agent fees are not really an expense. If you're being told to pay for an agent to get into an agency, it's probably not an agency you want to be a part of. Typically, how agencies work is that you are on their roster or their register, and then they connect you with auditions. And then when you get a part and you get paid, they take a percentage of that full payment. So you don't pay your agent directly, or you don't pay to get into an agency. So that is not an expense you should be having as a performing artist. I just wanted to make sure that people know that, because I realized that that's not necessarily common knowledge. So your agent takes a percentage from the money that you are paid. It's not that you pay them to be in an agency. That is not how it works. And if you are being asked to pay to join an agency, then maybe you must reconsider joining that agency. As in, don't do it. So when we're thinking about side jobs, day jobs, side hustles, survival jobs, that's another term. It's not a very flat, it's not a very good term to use, survival jobs, but that's a term that's used. What are we actually looking for in a survival job? Number one, you're wanting to look for is flexibility, because the actual schedule as a performing artist is a bit unpredictable. You don't know when your next job is going to be, when the next audition is going to be, and you don't know whether you're going to get it. And even if you do get the audition, I know that in film, it does take a bit of time to actually get into the production stage. Or even if you get an audition in theatre, it takes a time for you to actually go into the rehearsal periods and the show period. So you'll be waiting. In my personal experience, I went for an audition for a production, a relatively big production, and then I got into the second stage of auditions. But the period of time between the first and the second stage was at least a month or so. It was a long time. So between you going to the first stage of the audition and the second stage, I didn't go past the second stage, but let's say had I gone past the second stage, like it's and I had gotten the job, it would have taken all that time for me to get the job. I need to do something in that time other than just going for auditions, because you don't get paid for going for auditions. They're like job interviews. You don't get paid to audition. So you want flexibility, because the scheduling in the performing arts is not very predictable. You don't know when your next job is going to be. We don't know whether you're going to get the next job. You don't know when the audition is going to be. You do know ahead of time, but not by much time. And even then, you need to kind of be able to make sure that I can take a day off so I can go to this audition. You don't know how long you're going to be waiting. So you can't say, oh, I'll take 2 hours off on Tuesday to go to the audition. You have to usually be there for the full day, because it'll be like 200 people or 300 people auditioning for the same part. Maybe even less, but sometimes auditions take the whole day. So you need to have that flexibility. Rehearsal periods also going to be long, so you need to have that flexibility where you can take a whole day or a whole week off just to get this creative work done. So the number one thing you're looking for is flexibility, and the same thing, and then the second most important thing, is that it needs to be transferable. And when I mean transferable is that you should be able to make sure that the skills that you have as a performing artist or performing arts graduate, as an actor, as a dancer, as a singer, whatever you're doing as a creative, are actually transferable to the job. It's not a necessity. I just think it would be really helpful, because that means you don't have to go out of your way to learn new skills. Even if there are jobs that are professional jobs where you can be a freelancer and you can manage your free time, you might have to get an education, to be a lawyer. Even if you're an attorney and you're running your own business and you're running your own practice, and you can, I guess, somewhat manage your own time, you have to get your LLBs, and then you still have to go for your articles, and then you still have to write, as far as I'm concerned, your board exam. So we're trying to avoid that. I'm not trying to pick things where you need to go for an extra degree or an extra 3 years or 4 years of certifications to do. These are things that will give you a lot of flexibility and don't require a lot of money to actually get into, a lot of time and a lot of qualifications to get into. So it's quite accessible. So the first thing that I have, or the thing that I saw that was most common, and I think it's the common and the most obvious, is freelance teaching. So if you have a skill and you do it well and you know it well enough, especially if you have some sort of teaching certification, you can teach it to other people. And this can include doing private lessons, so charging for private lessons, going to people's houses, teaching them piano, teaching them how to sing, coaching them how to act, other things, voice lessons, voice acting lessons. It can be studio classes where you work for a studio or you do your own studio classes, and it can even be workshops where every other couple of months or weeks you host a workshop for dancers, or you host a workshop for actors. And the lovely thing about it is you can work with children, you can work with young adults and teens, and you can work with adults, but you can also work with other aspiring artists and other aspiring performing artists. So this can give you an opportunity to put your name out there, but also to meet other people in the industry, to meet other aspiring artists, and to kind of, you practice your craft. And in a sense, you learn from the mistakes of your students. You learn and you get to really improve your craft by teaching people how to do what you do. The nice thing about freelance teaching, is that if you have a degree in the performing arts, or if you have an advanced diploma in the performing arts, you can actually get another certification, like a postgraduate certificate in education, and teach at public schools and private schools. So if you're really, really into teaching, and you really do it well, and you're like, actually, this is my calling, this is for me, you can actually pivot away from the performing arts and being a performer to being a full-time teacher. So there it goes. It gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, and you get to work with people. You've got the skills you need. If you know how to market yourself, if you know how to communicate, if you know how to, you have good leadership skills, this will be a really good thing for you to do. And if you love working with children, it can fulfill that need for you to work with children and to develop other people. So it's a very good and wholesome option. The second one that I saw, which was actually quite common as well among the females, amongst the ladies, but this is not something that is specifically for ladies. It's not biased towards women, even though women tend to be the ones who use these services. I think you kind of get where I'm talking about, is beauty. Nails, hair, makeup. Yes, men can also do nails, hair, and makeup. I just mentioned that a lot of the women in this industry who are doing other work, a lot of them go into makeup artistry, nails, beauty. I myself, I do my own nails. I think that there is, the nice thing about this is that it's got a low barrier of entry in the sense that it isn't super regulated. You don't need a degree to do this. You don't need a certification. I myself went for a certification because I needed the skill. And to learn the skill, you can, for me to learn the skill, I needed to go and be taught by someone else. But it isn't a necessity for you to get a certification. It isn't a necessity for you to go to makeup school or nail school or hair school. I think, it would be advised if you're working on people's bodies to actually do that, but it isn't a necessity. And with regards to the overheads, as far as I know, you can always do it in other people's homes. So you can be a mobile nail technician, mobile hair braider, mobile makeup artist. So you don't need to have your own studio, or if you have a room in your house, you can use that and you can clean it up, and you can have you have to hold pretty high hygiene standards just to serve your clients, and you can actually invite them into your home, do their nails, do their hair, do their makeup. And it also kind of feels that creative thing is that we're in the performing arts because we love to express ourselves. So you get to be creative, and you get to express yourself creatively. You get to use your hands, and you get to have a skill that is that will never leave you. It's something that it's in your hands, so it's something that you will always have. So it's something that I saw very commonly. The thing about this is that you do need to market yourself. So I think using social media, gaining clients, marketing yourself around the area, and making sure that there is a good word of mouth, that you actually do a good job. No one's going to come back to you to get their nails done if they keep getting cuts, if they keep getting the wrong designs, they don't like, the hygiene is poor. So I think you have to think about that. And also, if you want to make it into a long-term business and pivot towards that, it's a really good place to start. The last option that I have out of the top 3 is fitness training. So that will include group classes, it will include personal training, yoga, Pilates. This one wasn't very common, but I did see it particularly among dancers because we already know how to use our bodies. We already train ourselves. We're already, relatively physically active and physically fit. So the transition would be a lot easier for us as dancers to get into. It does have a lower barrier of entry insofar as it's not regulated. It's not like you're becoming a medical doctor. However, you are working with people's bodies. So if you want to do a good job and you want to be respected, it is advised that you actually go and get a certification. There's some good courses out there, some that are on campus, year-long on-campus courses that you can look for. And there are some off-campus online courses, but the process is quite rigorous. So you have to prove all the material. You have to understand anatomy. You might have to learn some exercise physiology. You have to learn exercise principles, training principles. So if you're really, really not into learning anatomy, you don't want to work with people's bodies, you don't want to touch people, you don't care about other people's bodies, their fitness and their health and wellness, not for you. But if you have any knowledge already, you're like, actually, I already have an interest in anatomy, I already have an interest in helping people become healthier and fitter, this might be for you. It isn't the most stable if you don't know how to market yourself. A lot of these require you to know how to market yourself so that you can actually get clientele to work with. So you have the skills, but if you don't have the clientele and don't understand how to work the market or how to get the clientele within the market, you won't be able to really make money. So those are my top 3, but some other options that I wanted to add in just to make this video a little bit more informative that I've also seen and that have been mentioned to me is sports massage. You might need an extra certification for that and to have knowledge in anatomy. Again, if you have an interest in anatomy, using the body, working with the body, you need to market yourself, and then you're going to need basic equipment such as a massage bed. So you're going to need a massage bed in a car if you're going to do it mobile. But there's sports massage, there's videography, content creation, video editing, and photography. This one is a little bit of a higher entry insofar as you need the equipment and photography equipment, cameras, videography equipment, and video editing software. Especially industry standard software is expensive. So if you're okay with that, if you want to do it because you get to express your creative side, and then you also get to learn how to film yourself, if you ever want to go into making your own videos, making your own films. Sorry, there was a bit of a issue there with the camera. As I was saying, if you want to get into your own films, your making your own videos, filming yourself, taping other people, photographing other people, if you really want to use that as like your own creative expression and build a portfolio for the long term and transition into it, this would be a really good way of doing it. You do, as far as I'm concerned, need to develop the skills. You need to have the equipment, and then you need to develop a portfolio so people can actually see your work. So if you don't really have the time or the interest of developing a portfolio to photograph people, photograph weddings, children for schools, even other performers who want to do headshots for other performers, you can actually use this as an opportunity to build your name and say, hey, I'm an actor, you're an actor, I'll take your headshots for you. And, you're building your networking in that sort of a way. If you don't want to really do that, then I think you could skip it, but I think that's another option for you to do. I have real estate agent. This one I'm not so very knowledgeable about. I didn't do a lot of research, but I know that this one has an even higher barrier of entry because it does require quite a bit of money and quite a bit of time and investment to actually get what you need to certify to become a real estate agent. The skills are transferable because you have to be quite extroverted, and maybe not particularly extroverted, but you have good communication skills, present yourself well, good speaking skills, selling skills, which a lot of performing artists have because they're on stage, they're always they're presenting themselves all the time. But it is a little bit of a higher barrier of entry, but I'm adding that one in there for people who are like, maybe this is for me. Then I also have digital marketing, social media management, and then tutoring languages and school subjects. So if there's a particular subject that you did really, really well in high school, you can actually tutor high school students in that particular subject using a website, using other services that give you a platform to tutor students. So ultimately, the themes that run across all of these, I try to pick things that work around the lines of being freelancing and are not really traditional jobs or traditional jobs where you are employed by somebody, like working as in admin or in an office part-time, because in South Africa we have a very high unemployment rate among youth and a very high unemployment rate in general. So I wanted to tailor it for an environment where getting a job in a traditional sense is not a guarantee, but also the skills that you have are useful and you can transfer them as long as you are able to market yourself, you know how to generally run a small business, and you know how to network with other people, and you're able to learn new skills, because all of these somewhat require you to be adaptable, whether it's learning how to teach people, learning how to communicate in a way that they can learn from you, all the way to learning anatomy so that you can understand the human body in a way that you can make people fitter, make people's bodies function better as a massage therapist, sports massage therapist. So yeah, so I hope this video was very helpful. I hope this really expanded your idea on what you can do, because being a performing arts graduate is not I don't believe there's anything as a useless degree. It's about how you use it, how you market yourself, and how you position yourself in your industry. And when you have this degree, you know how to communicate, you know how to present yourself, you know how to be creative, you know how to work with teams, you know how to lead people, you know how to think on your feet. And these are all things that can be translated in multiple different industries, different types of work in different spaces, especially if you're a freelancer. So I hope you liked that video. I hope you give it a like. I hope you subscribe, and I hope you keep doing what you love, keep talking about the arts, keep being enthusiastic, keep being a patron of the performing arts, and I'll see you in the next video.